This Friday, White House envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's foreign minister are expected to discuss, they're going to have a meeting, expected to discuss a nuclear deal. Tammy Bruce is the deputy representative for the U.S. mission to the United Nations and joins me now. What is the Iran deal? Is it no enrichment of uranium and free and open inspections by us? Is that what we're pushing for?
Well, of course, as you might imagine, we are not going to have discussions or negotiate in public or on television, no matter how great the show. But obviously, it's going to be what the president wants. President Donald Trump brings everyone to the table one way or another. What he's been clear about from the start is that there'll be no nuclear weapon. There'll be no enrichment. And of course now, with the protests and the treatment of those individuals, the president has remained committed and is being committed to the condition of the lives of the Iranian people and is with them and is by their side. So this is about the Middle East. It's about stability. However the president is going to achieve that, it is going to be done. This is why Iran is at the table, because they understand who's in charge, and whatever the president wants, he is the guiding hand of this administration, certainly of the State Department and of the U.S. mission to the UN. We're going to get it done.
Is Steve Witkoff going to lay down the law to Iran's foreign minister and say, do this or else?
Well, I again, won't speak on the style of other people's negotiating frameworks.
But it'd be something like that, wouldn't
it? But what I know he'll do, and I think what Americans know he'll do, is he'll be conveying what President Trump wants. He's going to be conveying the nature of what Donald Trump sees as important for the United States. Yes, it's another country, obviously, but we're on a globe now that whatever happens in any other area directly affects us. His concern is the national security of the United States, but he's also a peacemaker. He knows that we're more secure when the world is secure, and he cares about how people are living their lives. Americans first, absolutely. But of course, if we can make a difference, and we are and can, with the lives of everyone in the Middle East, we're going to do it.
Okay. The United Nations is warning that it's in danger of financial collapse. President Trump told Politico he can solve the problem very easily. As I understand it, Tammy, this is a problem of members not paying their dues. Have we paid our dues?
Well, this is like when you've got someone you love who's in some trouble, and they've been sleeping on your couch, perhaps, and you've been helping them financially, and then you find out that they've been misusing that money. You want to keep assisting them, but you want some proof that they're not going to waste the money. They're not going to be engaging in fraud or abuse or waste. In 2024, the UN spent $340 million on meetings and conferences. We also have had some terrific success in just the few months that we've been there at this point. We, in fact, have cut the budget for the first time in modern history through budget negotiations by over $500 million. We also have made sure that we've got about 2,900 bureaucratic slots of workers that has been cut. We're giving it a haircut. We've only just begun. But the president also in that interview noted that the UN has potential. It's not going to leave New York. The UN matters. We believe that at the U.S. mission to the UN. We want to help it survive and to continue. That is our commitment. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is when you're operating on a smaller budget, a more nimble entity, so that you can move quickly in this modern world.
The next round of Ukraine peace talks, or Ukraine talks, I should really say, that's going to begin tomorrow. The UN, United Nations, doesn't seem to be doing much in these negotiations. It doesn't seem to be part of the Russia-Ukraine talks.
Well, this is part of, I think, why President Trump wants the UN to become better. He noted quite some time ago that he cares about making peace, about ending conflicts, et cetera, but he said he shouldn't be doing it alone. We want the UN to be functional, to be able to participate in this system. We know, of course, that President Trump is a leader who has the vision and the intent to stop these things. In many ways, there's been kind of an industrial complex for the status quo around the world. The president said, starting with Gaza, with Ukraine, Russia, and multiple other conflicts around the world, that there has to be new ideas, that the old way of doing things doesn't work. The UN, I believe, recognizes that, having now been there, worked with these individuals. They care about the future, but they need guidance and leadership about how best to do it. So when it comes to Ukraine, the UN cares, absolutely. Can they get as much done as President Trump? No. But in working with us, they'll be able to find a way that they can participate and help make a difference. And that's what we hope happens.
Tammy Bruce, great to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
Do not be a stranger.
Oh, not at all.
See you later.
Thank you.